I'm Soundarya, working as Assistant Professor in CSM Department in Mlritm. Today's topic is Types of DBMS Architectures. In DBMS, architectures defines how users interact with the database to read, write and update data in the database. So why we are using generally database? We can retrieve the data, add the data, delete the data. So the entire will be done by this particular architecture. So architecture only defines the which data, which architecture is it is, either it is 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. So a well-designed architecture and schema is nothing but structure of the particular database or table. Okay, how many fields in this particular table, what are the attributes, tuples, data, everything will be defined in this particular schema. So that is a blueprint of details about table, fields and relationship. Ensure the particular data is consistency, improving the performance and keeps the secure. Okay. And there are the several DBMS architectures that we use according to the user's requirement. So those are Tier 1 architecture, Tier 2 architecture, Tier 3 architecture. Now, what is Tier 1 architecture? In this particular architecture, users works with directly database on the same system. So here the user directly works with the database and the same the system. It means the client server databases are in one application. The user can open the application, interact with the data and perform tasks without needing the separate server and networks. Look at the diagram here. So this particular user can maintain all in one system. So this the client, server, database, all are in this particular application. This here only data server will be accesses. Okay, without adding any separate server is network and involved in this particular Tier 1 architecture. A common example of the Microsoft Excel. So everything from the user interact with the logic and data storage happening in the same device. The user enter the data, performance, calculate, saves the files directly in the computer. Look at here. So in your Microsoft Excel, I think everyone knows about it. So when you are opening this particular Excel document, automatically will get this rows and column, that is a table format. When you are entering the data, either it is a serial number, student name and student age and student address, etc. details. So this is a structure and we are inserting the data and we can also save the data or file in your database. So everything from the user interact with the logical and data storage happening in the same device. So we are creating data and we are also storing the data in the same device. The user enters the data and perform the calculation, save the file directly in their computers. Suppose here I am taking the student marks. I want to record entire marks, that is a sum. Okay, either it is addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. These are all performance will be done in the Microsoft Excel. So they can store the data in that particular system. This setup is very simple and easy to use. Make ideal for the personal or standalone application. It does not require the network or complex setup, which by happen use the small scale or individual use cases. So it is very easy because everything in the one system, they can easily access the data and we can easily add, delete and update data in Excel, and we can also store the data in our present system. The architecture is very simple and works well for personal standalone application where no external server or network connection is needed. So the user who is not need for the external server or external network connection, they can use this type of Tier 1 architecture. Now, What are the advantages and disadvantages of the Tier 1 architecture? The first one, advantages of the Tier 1 architecture, simple architecture. Everyone can easily understand. It is very simple. A single machine is required to maintain it. Only one system can handle entire the data. And next, cost efficiency. No additional hardware is required for implementing the Tier 1 architecture. So whichever you are having the particular system, that is enough for this particular architecture. So no need to add any extra hardware here. And next, easy to implement. It is most easily used in the small projects. So we are implementing easily, and this is useful for the small projects. Okay. And what are the disadvantages? Limited to single user. It's not designed for the multiple users or the teamwork. So only one system can handle this, means only one person, single person can handle each time the single system. That is a disadvantage. And the pure security. The everything is one system. They sometimes get access to the system. They can access both the data and application easily. So everyone can easily access this data. So we have the poor security here. Okay. And no centralized control. The data stored in locally. So there is no central database. This makes hard to manage our backup across the multiple devices. So we don't have a backup device here. So it is not stored in the centralized database. If the system is crashes, automatically we can lose entire data. Whatever we have stored before that, the data will be collapsed there. And hard to share data. Everything is stored on one computer. So here we don't have any network connection and we don't have any extra hardware devices. So it is very difficult to share the information from one system to another system. So these are the disadvantages and advantages of the Tier 1 architecture. Now, what is Tier 2 architecture here? The Tier 2 architecture is similar to the basic client-server model. The application at the client and direct communicates with the database on the server side. APIs and like ODBC and JDBCs are used for the interaction. The server side is responsible for providing the query processor and transaction management functionalities. So you can understand in this particular diagram. Look at here. This is a two-tier architecture. Before in the first tier architecture, we are having only the single system. The entire system having the database servers, user, everything in that particular system. So coming to the Tier 2 architecture, we have the two tiers. So one is the server side and second one is the client side. This client side having the user and applications. In these two can be connected by the network system, and server having the database system. Here the entire data will be stored. So here we have the transaction management and query processor can be handled. Based on the query system, we can share the data. Okay, now a one client side, the user interact with the application programs are run. The application on the client side establishes the connection with the server side to communicate the database. For example, here I am giving the example about library management system in any school or any organization institutions. The class is simply Tier 2 architecture. So here, in the client layer, here we are treated as a Tier 1 layer. This is user interface, the library tab user required with it may be desktop application to search the books and issue them and check dates, everything. And database layer is a Tier 2 layer. The database server stores all library records such as book details, user information and transaction logs. So look at here, in the database, Tier 2 database, it contains entire book details. For example, I am taking DBMS book details. How many quantities are in that particular library? There is 20, 30 and 100. And what are the author names? Okay. How many books are stock? That is how many books are present available in the library. Either it is 30. So we can know how many inputs in that particular database. So here they can easily issue the books. When they are searching, the books are available in the library. Automatically the librarian can issue the book and check the dates, how many the particular dates, either it is a 15 days or 1 month. Okay, if they having any fines also, they can give. When you are submitting the books also, they can check the books are in time you are submitted, otherwise is there any extra time, they have to pay some fee, that is a minimal fee. So the entire thing will be happening tier 1 and tier 2. It will be connected with the network connection. Okay, here the client layer side the request, searching the book, to the database layer, which process the send back to the result. This separation allows the client focus on the user interface while server handling the data storage and retrieval. So we are sending the request, it will be checking the process, is this available in the stock. Automatically we can retrieve the data from database management system, that is a library management system. Now, what are the advantages of the tier 2 architecture? Easy to access, makes fast retrieval. We can fastly retrieval the data from the databases. And the scalability, by adding client and updating hardware. Here we have to add some hardware in the system. The low cost, 2-tier architecture is cheaper than the 3-tier architecture and multi-tier architecture. So comparing to the tier 1 architecture, it is little bit expensive, but comparing to the 3-tier architecture, it is low cost and easily development to deploy the 3-tier architecture. And simple, it consists of the 2 components. Only we are having here the 2 components. Now, look at the disadvantages of the tier 2 architecture. The limited scalability. As the number of user increases, the system performance can slow down because the server gets overloaded with too many requests. So it is very small projects, it will be useful, as well as a medium level projects. If number of users increases, automatically performance will be decreased. If the users are increases, automatically performance will be decreases. Okay, and security issues. Client connect directly with the database, which can make system more risks to attack data leaks. So here the client directly connected with the database. So sometimes it is very risky and we can also lose the data. Tight coupling. If the database changes, the client application half need to upload it to it. If you are changing the application in the database side, automatically we have to update the data in the databases also. And difficult maintenances. Managing, updating, fixing bugs or adding the features become the harder. So whenever it is updated, we have to change all those things. So that's why it is very difficult to maintain 2-tier architecture. Now, what is 3-tier architecture? In 3-tier architecture, there is another layer in between the client and server. The client does not directly communicate with the server here. Instead, it reacts with an application server which further communicates with the database system, and then query processor and transaction management takes place here. This is intermediate level, acts as a medium for the exchanging of the partially proceedings, the data between the server and client. This type of the architecture used in the case of large web applications. So these tier 3 architecture is mostly used in the 3-tier architecture, mostly used for the large web application. So look at the diagram. So this is a 3-tier architecture. Here we are having the client side and server side. Again, we are having here the network. But comparing with the tier 2 to tier 3, we have extra application server. Okay, in the tier 2 architecture, we don't have this. Directly we have the database system connection to the client. So to overcome those problems in the tier 3, we have add this application server. In the previous, we are having same user and application client. In the server side here, the application server and database systems. Now, example for the tier 3 architecture. So web applications, large scale web applications example. So here I am taking the e-commerce. Everyone are doing online shopping nowadays more. So we can easily understand this example. User, you can visit any online store. You can take for example, a popular is Amazon. Say I can search the product and add it into the cart tab. So when I'm searching the product which is required to my user's purpose, so I'm searching the product and I can easily add that in the cart. So that is the user side. And second, the processing. The system checks if the product is in the stock, calculate the total price, and if it is having any coupons or discounts that can be applicable. So this process can give the information to the user. The product is available in the site, otherwise a warehouse. Automatically it can be added to the cart. Otherwise we get the information the product is not available in the stock. If you want to change the cart, otherwise you can notify for the later if it is available in the stock. So that can be done by the processing. The next one is a database. Here the product details, your cart and order history, and store the database for the further references. That can be done by the database. So what are the products we are done in the cart and ordered? So that is in your cart, order history, when you are ordered, and what is the delivery time. If it is dispatches, it can be give the information to the user, and store the database in the further reference purpose also. After you are getting the product also, we can have the ability to give the feedback. Okay, feedback about the particular product. It can also stored by the database. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the three-tier architecture? Advantages: enhanced scalability. Due to the distributed deployment of application servers, now individual connection need not be made between the client and server. We don't have to give any individual direct connection between the server and client. Data integrity. There is middle layer between the client and server. The corruption can be avoided. So we don't get any type of the deleting data here. The security, comparing to the tier 1 and tier 2, we have the more security available in the tier 3 architecture. This type of the model prevents the direct interaction with the client, with the server, thereby reducing the access to unauthorized data. So we can control to access the data who are related to the particular application and database. Those can be access the data. Otherwise, we cannot give the permissions to access the data for unauthorized persons. And what are the disadvantages of the tier 3 architecture? This is more complex comparing to the tier 1 and tier 2. Communication points are also double in the tier 3 architecture and difficult to interact. This is sorted of the interaction to takes place due to the presence of middle layer. So we are having application server extra layer. So by using of this one, difficult to access the data directly. And slower response time. Since the request passes through an extra layer, that is the application server, it may take more time to get the response comparing to the tier 2 architecture. So in the tier 2 architecture, we don't have this application server layer. So automatically we can receive the data very fastly comparing to the tier 3 architecture. Higher cost. Comparing to the tier 1 and tier 2, this is little expensive. The setting up of maintaining in the 3 layers, separate layers, that is a client, server and database. It requires more hardware, software, and skilled persons. This makes more expensive. So here we are having the three different layers, that is the client side, server side and database side. So we have to maintain little hardware as well as the software, and we also involve the skilled persons. So we have to give the salaries for those person. So that's why this is little expensive comparing to the tier 1, tier 2. So these are the references today's class. Thank you.